Order of Light presents a new era of contact, UFO sightings and strange anomalies, secret space programs and off-world adventures, advanced technologies and new discoveries, extraterrestrial abductions and contactees. Now is the time to speak. As we explore the unknown, the uncertain, and unseen, we are the disclosure, and these are those stories.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, all of you wonderful beings of light. So happy to have you all here tonight. We have a very special guest. We got Heidi Popp. She puts the pop in pop. There she is. A wonderful person that most of you probably saw in my first contact. She sent it in, and we got a puppy going there in the background. Hi, puppy.
It's a little early for him. That's Bo. Okay, sorry.
It's awesome. And yeah, Heidi, she's an experiencer. She has an incredible story. She's encountered and has learned a lot of things, and her family has went through these experiences as well. She has a family now. She's involved with working with a creative learning center, which has been a very popular topic. Not too long ago, I had Sherry Divban come on the show talking about the Aramis School, but that's here in Florida. Heidi, she's over in California. So, all of you are in for a treat, from UFOs to hybrid programs to a Bigfoot sighting, from fairies and other very, very amazing situations that Heidi has found herself in, not to mention her career. But I don't want to say everything about her. I got to leave some so she can tell it. But before we get started, everyone, let's get it out the way. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Give the video a big like. Help overdrive this algorithm that's trying to keep us down, because they don't want this kind of information getting out there. Please give it a share. And if you're not subscribed, what you waiting for? Don't try to deny it. You know you invited. So come on over and join the channel. With that being said, Heidi Popp, welcome to the show. And if you could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, if that's possible? That's a lot.
Sure.
The basic stuff.
The basics.
Who are you? Where you come from?
Totally, sure. I kind of lived all over. I'm from Chicago. I think that's the majority of my life. Chicago, Wisconsin area. I have 2 children. I live in the Los Angeles area. My biggest thing, I think one of my chunkiest experiences, I'm from the motion picture industry, where I've been about 35 years. I had a very successful business in there. I also made a living on-camera actor. And that was from Chicago. I started that, and I brought it out here, and I was still involved. Then I had to walk away due to medical choice. And now I find myself teaching, which I kind of started as well. I went to university for that. So I find myself 100% now in Momville and educating kids and being around kids nonstop. And I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow.
Took a big pay cut, but I love it.
And I hear you. And what did you go to university for specifically?
Well, I actually went to DePaul University, and I went to the theater school. I was auditioning and went through that. But as soon as it kind of started, I already had an agent. I was already working, and they didn't want you to do that. It was a conservatory. You had to be behind the scenes until you were a senior. So my mom and dad were like, get a degree in something you can have in your back pocket. And since you have this opportunity, and I've always loved kids, I was a babysitter since I was like 13, 14. I was a nanny. So I'm like, all right, I'll work with kids. So I moved over in DePaul into the School of Education. And I ultimately graduated with early childhood education. So I definitely have the preschool vibe. A very jolly preschool teacher. But I was always still, auditioning and doing things on the side. And I worked in private schools that allowed me to do that. So I've always been juggling the 2 of those. And really, at one point, I was teaching kids on-camera acting, too, when I moved out here. So in some facet, I've always been working with kids. And, so kind of full circle.
That's amazing. And you said you did some acting and
Mhm.
you worked on a lot of different things. Could you
Mhm.
name some of the highlights of that? Maybe some people will actually know what you're talking about.
It's so fun. Well, I did win an award at Slam Dance, which is not Sundance. It's Slam Dance. It's kind of like the spoof movies. I loved like the indies. That was my world. But I did have a round with like I danced with Martin Short on Jiminy Glick. That was fun. He twirled me
Wow.
around in his pet suit. That was interesting. Um, and when I was a kid, Groundhog Day was filmed kind of by us, and my mom, I was an extra in that, and with honors, and
Wait, you're in Groundhog's Day?
yeah, I'm a kid. I'm a kid. Is that another thing we have? Of course it is.
I love that movie. I wasn't in it. I wish I was, but you were a kid in Groundhog's
It
Day.
was so
What
fun.
else? Please keep lighting.
What?
What else?
Well, this was still because anything basically Chicago was great for industrials and stuff. I did a lot of industrial, a lot of big businesses and corporate and advertising. So I did a lot of in-house jobs. And I was with Ford, which was pretty big. You know, they did a lot of fashion print, but I was Ford TV film. And so I went out a lot and that was really cool. But when the big shows came to town, I just went myself as an extra. And because my thing was you go as an extra to these things, you bring your little sack lunch and you're, maybe $50 and you're sitting there and hanging out with everybody. But I was fascinated with the operings of a set. So I was always like behind the first AD. I'd be like watching. I got familiar with everything. And With Honors was another one that was Brandon Fraser and Pesci. Oh, Brandon Fraser's such a sweet pea. And that was when I think before I went to college. And I'm in that one of the lecture hall scenes. And just extra work was really fun because I got to be around what I loved. And so what I'm trying to think of some bigger names of stuff out here. You can go to my IMDb.
Okay, that's awesome.
When I started my craft service, though, one of my first clients was Rob Schneider. And he
What?
actually yeah, he and his brother, they funded and do all their films. And he's the one, Rob Schneider, I always credit, he shifted my whole craft service platform to high vibe snackages because he taught me about goji berries and clean eating and GMO. Like,
I love goji berries.
yes, I was like, goji who? And
Yeah.
he was such a clean, nice eater. They're just good people. And I learned the art of keeping the crew high vibe and happy and not drudgery. No matter your budget, you can eat well. And so he really let me explore. I did a couple of his films and I built my little empire that way. Like I bought my tables and, got the truck and, I had to get equipment. I basically was craft service, the snack lady on set, not a full caterer, just snacks. So I dote on everybody. I worked with
And
Yami.
everybody loves the snack lady.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love the snack lady?
Yeah. We were called Meow Meows.
That's
And
wild. So
I
you
trained
were doing
girls.
that during the big Rob Schneider movies?
Big Stan was the first one, I think. That was like he was in a prison.
Okay.
And gosh help me, I should have looked that up beforehand. There were kind of three in a row, and then that led me to just meeting people that pulled me into other stuff. When I started working commercially, that's when things really took off for me. Because honestly, in a little over 15 years, I never looked for the work. It was all referral. So when you get in the commercial scene, it not only is that where the money is, but it was my working on a film is hard. You're like, it's your carnies. Hands down, your carnies. You are up at dawn, you every single day you're doing this. Whereas commercials, you prep, you shoot 1 or 2, 3 days, and then you're down. You prep your 1 or 2, but you can make a salary working part-time. So, and you get the leftovers. That was the best part. So, when I got into the commercial world, that ultimately led me to meet people who did award shows and stuff. So then like the Emmys or the American Music Awards, I was doing the green rooms. And, I would also my passion was the crew. This takes me back to the Chicago and watching how the crew runs and everything. There's so many different individual jobs on set and everyone I honored. Like I treated the PA the same as the Academy Award winning DP, like they all got the same love and they felt it too. And I was really respected. It was really cool. So that was pretty fun, but I also saw a lot of stuff. So I worked with a lot of crazy things. I've seen the dark, but I had to bring the light in and balance it out. And, there you go. But I basically merged all my loves, high vibe food, kids. I would work with kids on set. Someone's like, why don't you become a studio teacher and work on set? And I go, I got to move around, and I like leftovers.
Those leftovers.
It's all about the leftovers. And plus I got in there. Like I don't like, as you could tell, I don't sit still very well. And I'm just like, there's always something to do. And I'm very maternal, a very high vibe and very maternal. Like I really love doting on people and being of service. So when you're of service, it's like, how can I help you? What do you need? And it wasn't just food and snacks. I was known, they called me craftspiracy instead of craft service, because I talk about all the stuff, even my ET abductions and things. Really? And it depends who you're talking to, though. You have to feel them out and see how far you're going to go with this. But like when I worked for Al Gore on an environmental fundraiser. Yes. And it was this telethon for global climate change. And meanwhile, we're building the set for 5 days under yellow Argyle skies, and everyone's coughing, everyone's getting sick. I'm like, y'all want to talk about this? And they didn't. And not only that, but I heard them in a segment producing meeting talk about the Honduras caravan and all the other agendas, nothing about the weather and nothing about climate. I'm like, and I'm teaching the girls who are working with me. I'm like, did y'all know? And they're like, Heidi, can we just work today? Can we not talk about this stuff? Let's just wait till we get paid.
Let me tell you about chemtrails right now. And you're like, no. If Al Gore hears this, we're going to lose our jobs.
I know. And it was like an all-star lineup, and it was 100% biodegradable set, which I love. That was my kit. I love working with all clean products, and vegan, which I do everything. But when I saw some of the celebrities come in, I'm like, to my assistant, I'd be like, that's a cannibal. They're not vegan. They actually kids, They either loved or hated working with me, but I paid them. So
the fact you were working right there in the Viper's Pit, we could call it.
Yes.
And you are backstage saying this while they're up there. I'm sure everyone that's watching this is getting a kick out of that. And my hat's off to you. But wow. And oh man.
See how it just pivots? I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
But that will have to be a whole nother interview. We could call that the wild side of Hollywood and elites. But so bring it back in. Now we know what you spent years doing. And as you said, a fraction and a portion of this was always somewhat centered around service to others and to helping children and educating and lifting people's energies and vibrations, which that's wonderful. Even if we have to go to darker places, and even in dark places, there's good people there, Like, I don't know, everything you were saying about Rob Schneider, it seemed like pretty down cool person. I had a family member that he gladly took a picture with just randomly. Seemed down to earth and cool, Yeah. And that was very interesting insight for all of us like me over here on the East Coast, where we're just cut off from everything. We don't know what's going on in Hollywood. But reason we got you on, because a lot of these things you were sharing with these people in Hollywood and the people you're working with, your experiences, which, oh my goodness, you've had quite a few, and there are some similarities between some of the things that you and your family has went through, along with my experiences personally. But Heidi, when was, that first experience that really opened up your eyes to the possibility that there is a whole lot more out there that we're not aware of, and a lot of the things that we see on TV that we are told that is fake, that realization of, oh no, it's actually real. Can you break that down for us and just, walk us through your spiritual journey?
Sure.
Because truly incredible.
Sure. Well, the first thing that pops in my head is kind of really the first recall and memory I have, and that's Bigfoot. It's a Sasquatch. And that was in the Pacific Northwest. And we lived in Portland, Oregon. And we actually moved there from Houston, Texas, but I was born in Chicago. So I had a 5-year journey to get, and I don't recall any of that. But in Portland, Oregon, I remember because I spent majority of my time outside. I love, even by myself, totally fine, totally happy. Definitely had fairy elemental energy around me all the time. I just thought everybody did. So I didn't think anything of it, but it was that experience. We took off every weekend. We had the old school van again, at the pop top, and we would just take off and go see these wonders and, camp like every weekend or all the time. And one of our regular treks was from Portland to Cannon Beach. And I actually have a funny Goonies story, but that's another time. It was Cannon Beach. Sorry. On the way from Portland to Cannon Beach, we always took the scenic route. And I just remember just a lull in the drive, and I'm a daydreamer, and of course, no gadgets. Woohoo. And I'm watching out the window, and I'm watching a figure coming this way. We're going this way. And we just did the whole like, what?
Daytime.
100%. Yeah. Daytime. And it wasn't the absolute thickest part of the, forest and stuff. It was a little more, spaces in between. You could
spotchy.
see. Yeah.
The trees were spread out 3 to 4.
You can see a horizon. So it's
wow.
so it's more not an empty field, but it was unincorporated and it was just spotty. So I could clearly see someone walking, but I'm like, that's not a person. That's not a bear. That's not like I'm like, what? And it was only when they turned and we met face to face. I'm like, it's a face. Like, this is a person. And it was a locked moment of like, what? And I could feel this like energetic boom of like, hi, like, hey, this is for you. Just something really fun. I didn't get freaked out. It was more like, of course, my parents didn't stop, but my mom, bless her heart, she never corrected me. She's like, yes, dear, they live up here. They're guardians. Da, 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 da. Because I'm like, I think I saw a figure. And da, 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 da. I told them there's hair all over the place, but they're kind. They're hunched. It's a gorilla, but it's not, And my mom told me about the Sasquatch, which I didn't know about, and really normalized that for me. And I was
you were 5 years old?
I was about 6 then. Yeah.
6 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm guesstimating 6. And 6.
And yeah. I have one question real quick. When you said this thing was it just hunched there, or was it walking?
Like the walk was do.
Okay, so it was walking, and when you were driving by, when it turned and looked at you, did it turn its whole body, or
just
was it just turn just the
head?
Kind
of just the head, like a whoop.
Okay, so its body continued straight, and it just turned its head.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and the more I had to dig deep to get that recall a little clearer, because I can't preface this enough, and this is going to today's stage. What I teach my kids, I want to normalize this stuff, because it could have easily been shut down, and then it would have turned into maybe a traumatic event, and I would have buried it. But it was always lingering, because it was like, what was that? Like, that was fun. And I felt good. Like, it was interesting. It was inspiring, and it wasn't scary, thanks to my mom. So honestly,
wow.
Saying that. Yeah.
And just a few questions about that, because I have to dive deeper into it. And
sure.
Before I get too far ahead in this, I do want to say what your mother said to you is quite accurate. Bigfoot are people, in my opinion. They're great people. They're higher dimensional beings that hang out in areas where Earth's natural vortexes, portals, etc., even in areas of high UFO abductions, missing 411, people mysterious, all of these things. And Oregon and the parts you're describing through the forest, that is a hot spot for these things. And I believe all the people that I have talked to personally that have had an encounter with a Yeti, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, hairy people, I've heard so many different names from, they've all been really positive and loving interactions, and some sort of like, I know you're there and I know you're there. Like some sort of what you were describing. That
and all here.
Yeah.
Like all here. No word. It's just you felt it. You like the you can compute. It's just yes.
And it's weird, and I think why we have such a hard time because they look so 3D. And this leads me to my next question.
Okay.
What color was the hair? What was it? Black, brown, white? How tall was this thing? I mean, estimates, of course.
I would think 8 feet. Like
Oh,
that's
it
what
was
caught my
tall.
eye. I'm like, what is this? Like it's just tall. And if I were to say a color, it would have to be all of those. It was like not calico, but like there wasn't a solid color. It was a little bit of everything.
It was kind of calico. Well,
Yeah,
that's a good description, like a calico female cat, the little bit of every. Wow, that is weird.
Like walking, but like with such big stride, and the arms are walking with the legs like a human.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like ape-like. Remember, it was so fast, but also but beautiful.
Yeah.
Not like a scary, although I think all things are beautiful, gorillas and everything, but it was just like a unicorn. You're just like, woo, what's this? And the features I remember the most is making out of not like a human face like yours or mine, but the human features. There's the eyes, the nose, eyebrow, like a what's it called? Like where the bones are for the eyebrow. Like it was all in the same human place, same what it would be a proportionate to just a really tall person.
Yeah.
But lots of hair.
Wow.
Not all around the face or anything, like not around here or anything.
That's amazing.
But it was such a cool, I remember thinking too, like how like they were cool. Like
Yeah.
they were like strutting. I was like, man, they're cool.
Don't mind me just walking through the forest, not a human in sight, just cruising along going. And what year would this been?
That was, it was right before Mount St. Helens erupted, because we saw that too. We watched that from our window, and that was 80. So this had to have been 79 or 80. I would think.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah, that was funny too, because we had this beautiful house overlooking Portland and just glass wall. And, Mount St. Helens is way in the distance, and it was happening. My parents were like, girls, I have a sister, you got to see this. And we're like, yeah. Like, we want to come out and play. And they're like, this is history. And we're like, yeah. But then several days later, it starts raining ash, and it rains ash for like 2 weeks. And we went sledding in it.
Oh my God.
My mom was smart enough to cover our face. She's like, wear a scarf, you don't breathe it in. But we had a crazy driveway, and we would sled up and down the ash because you didn't get snow there very much. So that's my Mount St. Helens story.
On the ash of
maybe that's why I'm crazy.
That would have a lot of toxins in there. That's wild. That's
82 was Mount St. Helens 80 or 82? I think it was 82. No. ET was 82. I was trying to think of my timeline.
Going through all the memories of when movies came out, and you saw that, because it was probably like watching a movie. I can't imagine. I've never been in that situation. And thanks so much. The amazing little details you gave of that. There's no doubt in my mind that these wonderful people that people call Bigfoot, they're positive, loving, kind beings that have our best intentions. So it's amazing that, like you said, it wasn't a fear situation, because your mother actually gave you the good answer versus of saying you didn't see anything, just ignore it and not addressing it. That causes trauma, which so many of us go through. And this brings me to the next question I want to ask you. You said prior to this, you said you would see things that you just kind of called fairies.
Yeah.
I got to hear more about this. I've had a lot of people come on the show talking about their fairy experiences, or these energy little balls that would communicate with them, etc. And they didn't think it was weird. They just assumed everyone saw these things. And this is a reoccurring topic. So if you could, I definitely want to hear about that.
Oh, sure. Well, it came after, honestly, I was doing that little video for you. And then after my trip to Grafton last year, it was like a total Doc Connect aha moment. But our same house, the crazy house with the long drive, we were on a hillside in Portland, and I made myself a tree house, but it was basically just sitting on the side of the hill. You could just step into it. But I remember just going there because my friends were there, and my mom would say, go play with your friends, which meant go play by yourself outside. But I never felt alone. And there was my sister, but we weren't side by side all the time. I felt very safe. I felt more safe in the woods than I would when we go into town. And to me, there was little golden balls of light all over the place, like pixelated little like things. But I would talk. I just was always having full conversations, sweeping my little fort, and just hanging out. I'd always walk through our property and make little shrine areas for them. And this again is my mom. My room had a lot of fairies and pictures and things, and she definitely pulled out that dream state in me, but it never felt like it was imagination. It was like, it was just my state of being. And then there was times I was a very, very shy child, and I went through different things of education. But when I had my first, second, third grade, I was at a Catholic school. And then on our playground, I remember a hollowed out tree. And every recess, I was so excited to get to recess because I'd just sit in the tree and I watch everybody. But my little Orby things would hang out with me. And I'm like, oh no, I had a great recess. Teachers would be concerned. I'm like, I'm having fun. I'm hanging, I'm playing. But I didn't really care about the people. I just wanted to be alone. My mom had to actually call parents and try to schedule me play dates because she was worried I wasn't playing with other kids. But to me, I was blissed out. I was fine. I'm like, I never was sad about anything. It was like, put me in the woods, I'm good. And that was kind of
same here, Heidi. With me, I grew up, I didn't have anyone to play with. My best friend was a pet deer and a Doberman dog. I came from a family of hunters. We survived. We ate off the land. Anything that we did put down, we were eating it to survive. That was our main food. And I used to spend a lot of time making what I'm going to call pop-up houses, where they weren't tree houses. They were just sticks put together up against another tree on the ground because no one had time to get up there and use nails and hammers. We would just collect sticks and leaves and everything else. Mm-hmm. And the same thing. And one thing I learned, and being a hunter and being up in a tree stand, although I'm proud to say I was an awful hunter. And I think a part of me never wanted, it was hard for me to kill something that I had as a pet, even though I was eating it. So I would end up missing a lot. I hope my grandpa don't see this because he would get so angry because that's dinner you're missing on. But I love the animals, but I just love being up in the tree. And when you're in tune with nature, just because you are alone and away from humans does not mean that you're alone. And you can find a peace and a serenity and feel more not alone out in nature than you ever would feel in a city or town.
That's it. Yep. 100% all the time.
Because there's so much there. We're just not tuned to listen to it, especially those that come from places with a lot of people, a lot of noise. But you're definitely not alone out there. And there's a lot of energy. And at such a young age as well. And it sounds like the place where you were living was magical. It was up on a mountain, up high.
Yes. It was the West Hills or North Hills of Portland, the West Hills, kind of like Hurlsborough area, but up in the hill. And to me, it was everything was magic. But I loved it too because my parents, they always appreciated a great view and great scenery like the Columbia Gorge. All these areas is where we'd hang out, and I just had such great appreciation for it because I was raised with that. So I'm kind of spoiled in that sense because I really like a view and like natural setting. I'm in LA, but that's not I live in a tranquil place.
But before having that sort of view really, really helps with understanding how small we are.
Yeah.
Like the experience when people fly for the first time and they're looking down, it's like, we're so little. that realization of like seeing, essentially what things up in the sky would see, which kind of segues into the rest of your
Sure.
experiences. So, when did, you talked about fairies, golden orbs of light, beautiful, I like to call them earth elementals,
Yes.
natural prehistoric earth energies that have been here long before these hybrid extraterrestrials known as humans were put on this planet, long before then. But at what point did you start to, say, whoa, it's not just stuff here on this planet, there's other things,
Oh
because
yeah.
Bigfoots have been here for a long before we have. They are very old. They, at some point or another, they come from somewhere else, but they are ancient to this planet,
Mhm.
no doubt about it. So at what point did things from other places kind of start to get on your radar?
I think that, well, that has to be. So we left there and we went back to the Chicago area. We were in the suburbs, and that was about 85. And then right after that, maybe 86 before that, my dad is from Wisconsin and he's from Door County. And if you're Wisconsin, it's the peninsula. And so we got a summer home up there. And they called us fibs. I won't tell you what that means, but it has to do that Wisconsin didn't like the Illinois people coming up to stay there, but we did, and we became one with Wisconsin. But the experiences then, and the book, this is what I forgot to say in the video, the book Communion came out. Remember?
Oh,
And
okay.
I read it. And it just shift my perspective to a darker one. And sure enough, at that same time, those darker experiences started happening. And I always thought, had I not read that book, would those experiences have been that dark? So I don't know, because my mom was having these amazing experiences, some terrifying because of the loss of time and things. But for me, I saw the shadow beings in the doorway. I always had to put myself to sleep, and I still do. My husband could tell you, I pull my covers here and I put a pillow right here. And I sleep like this. Only this is showing every night. It's the only way I can fall asleep. But when we started staying at the summer home, especially in summers, I started having, my mom was seeing craft at that time, and of course sharing it and telling us, and we were on the water.
And when was this age frame when your mom was seeing this?
I was about 12. I was about
Okay.
12, and
still young.
Yes. And so to me, she's like, come on out, like sit with me, I'm communicating all these things. And I'd already read the book and I'm like, I'm good. And so I went through these wicked nights of sleep paralysis and white lightning. And it was traumatic kind of. And then at night, the way our house was, it was mostly facing water, but on the other side with, garbage or, the driveway and where the cars would be. And sometimes, my mom or dad would ask me to get something from the car, which is only like 15 feet away. But I'd be like, do I have to? Because I would make that run and just feel like I'm getting bum rushed. Like the energy was just so crazy. And the woods were all around us.
White lightning. You said white lightning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't say something like that. I don't know. I get these things I call red flags when I'm interviewing people. Mm-hmm. What is white lightning? Can you describe that?
It would literally feel like a lightning storm, but without any thunder. So like strobe lights happening kind of, because I would always wake and ask my mom, or like, because we'd get branches fall. We'd have storms, but you'd be no sign. I go, what about that storm last night? She's like, there's no storm. And I would say, but there was lightning in my room. And she would kind of basically be like, if they're trying to contact you and you're scared or not ready, tell them. You can tell them from here. Say that, leave me alone. I'm not ready. And I'd be like, what? Like contacting me? And again, I'd read that book, so I was scared about it. And that would happen where the sleep paralysis, I wouldn't be able to move. I'd be like trying to call my mom. And then my eyes would be creeping open and I just see the lightning. And then I'd be terrified. And I never changed my room around. It was so small. I'm in a little trundle bed facing the door. And the shadowy figures were just haunting And again, I had an image now, which was from that book. Before, I might have invited it in or something, but I was really like, I'm not ready. Please leave me alone. And I still am curious what exactly did happen. But that the white lightning didn't happen all the time. The sleep paralysis happened more often than the strobe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying, Whitney Strieber, the book Communion, and that's one of those stories very much like when people watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's one of those, or that other movie, The Fourth Kind. Certain movies will like really make you second question some of our connections, whether they're positive or negative. Once you know that these things are real, and being so young, I had this problem after I found out my mom was being taken after the UFO crash. I would have shows coming out 2 years after called X-Files, movies like Independence Day, and then the Men in Black movie coming out. After knowing these things are real and then going and seeing that at such a young age, I didn't have amount of level of discernment. I didn't know how to separate truth from lie. So you were still fairly young and you picked that up, and a spade is a spade. That was your mentality, If I can't trust one of them, I can't trust none of them. I'm out of here. I don't want to see them flying around. I don't want to see lights in my room. I don't want to see a dark shadow. I don't want nothing to do with this, because if there's even 1%, it can turn out like the book Communion.
Yes.
I'm out.
Exactly.
That was your mentality.
But you know what's so trippy is before the book Communion came out is when E.T. came out. And I had that weird thing in the movie where I projectile vomited everywhere. I'm like, so was I already having these experiences? And it was because I didn't have a reference then.
Yeah.
So
and E.T. was positive. I'm sure you weren't afraid after watching that. You're like, oh, I want to have a best friend now.
I want to find a creature and keep him in my closet.
Yeah. And you brought up a bunch of points so far. Some of the answers your mother has gave to you, I think this is a perfect segue, because she's the one seeing the UFOs and trying to get you in on it, but realizing you're not ready and saying, you have the power to put things on your term. From everything your mother's saying, it really sounds like she's an experiencer.
100%. And
like big time.
Yes. And and there also was this round for her that started in Portland. Now I haven't had clearance from her to talk like this, but I don't think she'd mind. Side note, but in Portland, she had this several moments where she'd be somewhere and a book would fall on her head. It happened 4 times, and it was Course in Miracles. And that was kind of her gateway to just start digesting just information. The Theosophical Society she would go to, and metaphysical, like she would have sleepless nights digest. She couldn't get enough information. And she opened something in her, I think, because when she started having her experiences in Door County, her very first one with the whole loss of time was she was scared. She had met someone in town who was an experiencer. He had raven black hair one day and pitch white the next. And she went to have a meeting with him to say, are you seeing the same craft I've seen? And that night she had a total blackout of time. And she was drinking coffee, turned up the music, turned up the radio, turned on the lights. My sister and I were in Chicago. She was on her own. And she said she then woke up the next day and went, no, because she was saying to this guy, like, dude, I'm still researching. Please back off. But she's also had a lot of womb issues, and unexplained pregnancies disappear, and just things of this nature. And that she didn't disclose to me when I was a kid. But as an adult talking about this stuff later, she told me all this, and I was like, oh my gosh, Mom. And that what was happening to me, because it was, to this day, I think there's something involved in the hybrid program or situation of that sense. Is that what you were kind of referring?
Yeah, exactly. And, your mom did the same thing to you as my mom did. I didn't learn about the extent of everything until I was about 15. And then when I was 24, she really dropped everything on me. At 15, she, really opened up about it, because I saw one of the miscarriages that wasn't human in the toilet, and she was in there crying for hours. I thought something was serious. Something I've tried to, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to remember. I want to remember. You have no idea how much I would like to forget. Some things, there's not, once you see it, and it's so graphic. But long story short, these things are happening. And like what you were saying with your mother, some of these pregnancies, my mother had her tubes tied, yet she still miscarried 4 to 5 times.
Oh, goodness.
Just these different anomalies. And the whole reason she got her tubes tied was she thought it would stop her. And she was in the hybrid program. And she would see her hybrid children all the time and constantly would want one. And it was a big ask that she always put out there. And, just like your mother, she always explained these things as a child. She had like pet names for the extraterrestrials and this and that. And because she was a caring mother, very much like yours, she wanted me to grow, and she always made it a point. And I want to ask you this. My mother always told me, you have nothing to be afraid of. Never be afraid.
Yes.
And that was, out of everything else, that was the one point. But the movie Aliens was out, and I had a bunch of toys, and they had to take away my comic books and stuff because I just couldn't. Oh, it's real. And that discernment just,
wow,
spit me out. But similar to your mother. So
once
you got older and you started to have your own experiences, and once I got older and I saw one physically right in front of me. That's when my mom decided to drop everything on me. So kind of speeding up so we could figure out more what your mother was going through, and obviously you've always seen these things. If your own mother, I bet a lot of people are saying, we wish we had your mom. Because a lot of us, that are watching this did not have parents that were as in tune as ours by a long shot, So, you've always been surrounded by these things. At what point and what happened within your life that kind of opened up that door and that connection that really allowed your mother to explain to you and kind of carry it from there?
I want to say what the times. Well, I wanted to share too that throughout that scary time or any of it, when she said you're not ready, she also said, with the fear, just call out, I'm Christ's child. I have Christ consciousness. I'm from the light. And she goes, that's your protection. So she always gave me some tools of protection. But I have to think that the conversation wasn't there yet because I was not of right mind. I was 21, but my brother coming along. I have to share this. Right after I was born, my mom had cervical cancer they caught, and they removed most of her cervix. And they're like, you can't have any more kids. And she's like, okay, it is what it is. But she would have unexplained pregnancies that would disappear before me. So she just assumed it was over. And then when I was a year before I was 21, she had a moment in her bedroom where she saw a very tall, thin, what we would think is sickly looking, because pale, bluish, like very bone structure, very big. And she said right away, she goes, that's my child. And he was looking at her longing, like, I wish I could be with you. I wish I could be with you. And they had this moment. And my mom was just so like, they've taken children from me. Like, she had that moment. And a year later, my mom's at the doctor going, I hit menopause. She was 46. She goes, I keep gaining weight. Like, I don't know what's wrong. And they're like, you're 3.5 months pregnant. You stop drinking. And she's like, it's impossible. I don't have a cervix. This doesn't happen. They're like, you are. And then here comes my brother. He was born when I was 21. And I think that made her go, whoa, they gave me a gift. Or, and even my sister and I were horrified because we both had an experience that year with Planned Parenthood. And I won't dive too deep into that, but that traumatized and scarred us for life. And then here comes my brother. So it's like this soul was coming through regardless. But yeah, my mom was like, okay, like, I got this. Like, so he was like this big grandiose arrival because we're all like, wow, how is this guy here? And he's fabulous. Casey Popp. He's keeping his name too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I
And
think, well, 21 through, I was a party girl in Chicago. Like, I was having fun. And it wasn't until probably my early 30s where she goes, before your brother was born, I had this experience in my room and we were able to share a little bit more.
so
Yeah.
that's when it happened.
Yeah.
And as you said, her cervix was taken out. Like, she's really not supposed to be able to
Yeah,
get
because
pregnant.
it closes up so the uterus can form. So nothing would ever
I-
be able to be held in. So she, and when, they,
and he wasn't premature. Like, how does that even happen?
it was insane. This is a total side note. And when she was 6 months, I was in college at this time. She had surgery because they found a huge cyst growing on her fallopian. And they said, if you don't get this out now, you're going to die in childbirth. So my dad had, are we going to lose the child, or are we going to lose your mom, or we get the surgery? And all of it was scary. They took the entire sac that he was in out. Now I just started thinking, what did they do? But anyway, they took it out, removed the cyst that was pulled out, and there was teeth in it and everything. And they put him back in, and he finished cooking. And then he was born. He had a natural vaginal birth, and I was holding her head and everything. Made me definitely not. I waited to have kids till I was like 36. But
and you just brought up an amazing point, and I have, unfortunately, and I say this wholeheartedly, unfortunately, I've had so many women come on this show with mysterious cysts, scarring on their uteruses. All right, what's going in there to scar it to begin with? And all of these women that I've talked to, probably around 200 of them thus far, and I've only been at this for about 3 years, 200 of them, this is a reoccurring thing. I've had guests that have had hysterectomies, and it still keeps going. The same thing with your situation, the uterus scarring. My mother had so many lady problems. She would bleed constantly 3 weeks out of every month all year round, her entire life. And she got her tubes tied thinking that would stop the bleeding and stop all this happening. And just like what happened to your mom, it doesn't stop when they got a mission. And that sickly being, that she saw, that she obviously telepathically connected and realized, this is my child. And as you said, sometimes when we say sickly, if you're unfamiliar with a gray extraterrestrial and you're seeing one come into our density, and it's right there in front of you and you're seeing it, some of their jaw structures, sunken chins, oversized heads, very tall, very light skin, it will look like a starving human being, that it hasn't seen sunlight. Well, of course not. They're on a metal dark craft most of the time. So it would seem sickly to us. But what you said about like her feeling like, from her being in this program and them creating all these beings, like that realization, well, I want one. And then boom, your little brother came along. And
we were all like, what? And at the time, that was 1996. So she was high risk, and no one at your age gets pregnant, and all this stuff. Now it happens more, but it was a thing. It was a big thing. And then my poor dad, he was born like 4 days before I graduated DePaul. And my mom was sitting in the audience. She had her popsicle, but he's just like he was almost done. Both his daughters were out of the house and graduated and everything. And he's like, I got to start over. But he had his son. I know. But he had his son, and then he wound up coaching Little League, and he did all that. It gave him more life, actually. It was it was really cool. But yeah,
he got the son he never had, but I understand that. Like, I'm just getting rid of him in another 18 years. But that's how the universe works, does it not? And that connection, like my mom begging these beings for a kid, and my mom, like that one day that I walked in there and I saw the miscarriage, she was crying over and I miss my babies. I miss my babies. I miss my babies. She was never afraid, and the only pain or torment she got was honestly just from missing her children. That was the hardest part. So that connection your mom had, with that, I get it just from watching my mom. And eventually I think they do, give in to certain people that they're using for these programs, and I think sometimes they give them what they ask for, and then you get a surprise. By any chance, is he 6'8" with red hair? What does he look like?
Well, but he is the tallest in the family. My mom and dad were not that tall. Pardon?
Oh, wow. I'm the tallest in my family as well. That's those sneaky suckers up there.
I know, right?
Wow, that's awesome. So, after this experience and your mom filled you in, I'm sure you kind of had that epiphany moment. I was 24 when my mom told me, well, not everything, but a lot of everything. Some things she took to the grave, and I'm still finding out stuff from family members, things she hid from me. She was always trying to protect me, and our parents do that. And now that you're a mom, you have children that you got to protect and help teach and etc. But after having that epiphany and having all that information, I'm sure you went back through your life and started to connect the dots,
sure. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you were connecting those dots, what were some of the conclusions that you came to? Did you get any more answers? Was there ever a message that you received from these golden orbs, or from the white lightning, or your room filling up with light, which I've seen this firsthand with curtains on the windows? Should have been impossible. I've seen this happen firsthand. So was there any downloads, or was there that spark that went off in your brain that kind of pieced some of the puzzle pieces together for you?
It's really been the last couple years, and I do take that on as a testament to sobriety, because 21 to mid to late 30s, well, before my first daughter, I mean, everything went kind of dormant, but I was also self-absorbed in survival mode. Like I left Chicago, I moved to LA by myself, film buddies, like I was on my own, and paying everything myself. Like I was just in survival mode, but also following my bliss. They taught me to do that. So I wasn't tapped in, but I did at every moment of stress, especially when I moved to LA. I found the spots that resonated the most, that felt well, like Topanga Canyon or the beach on these rocks. Like I'd find this natural setting where I'd always go recharge. Like things would be going crazy and I'd go spend time there. I'd write like a maniac. I channel writing a lot. And then I'd get back to one and then I'd go back out there and go at it again. But it was once my kids came that the dots started connecting. I started studying like my mom did in her time. Just I couldn't stop studying. It was sleepless nights, taking in all the information I can, and the dark and the light. Max Spears, I give a lot of credit to. He got me thinking about all the stuff going on this planet and the intergalactic slave trade system. And I'm like, is that what happened to my mom? Is that what happened to me? It's the dots started connecting too fast that I was overwhelmed. I didn't quite find the others yet and didn't quite have that team to talk to about. So I was almost a little manic really diving deep. I really kept focusing on that chunk of the dark time. And it was only till I realized that book came out and was that involved, but there was this just chunk of time. Like, what was that? Why bliss before, bliss after, and then dark, scary. So still connecting the dots there, but something feels very hybridy there. I mean, it probably stays in the family. But the last few years have just been a lot of clarity and peace, because I'm like, yeah, this happened and this happens and that's what it is. And what am I going to bring to the table? And what makes me feel my optimum best. It's service to others, clear, healthy body and mind, being a guardian to children, and really making sure their experiences are positive. Even if I feel there's something dark involved, teach them in a way that's not scary, because my mom did do that. And I feel that's why I can talk so candidly about everything now. It's just like, oh yeah, that happened. But she really helped with the trauma of everything. I've taught my kids to say, I'm Christ's child, surround yourself with the white light, tools that she would do for me. And that's been incredibly helpful, because my son had just night terrors and just a lot of crazy stuff happening. I've been talking to several experienced higher ups, you'd say, just because they're super established in our communities, and they've worked with me, and they say he's involved in perhaps Zeta programming, and he's interacting at night, and he's very familiarized and normalized with the grays and all the different programs, and he speaks their language, but he's in both worlds. He's balancing the dark and light. And they're like, you don't need to teach him that stuff now. What I did learn to do is not be scared. We have a routine now for when he goes to bed, and special things in his room to help balance the energy. And
how old is he?
He's 9 now. He's 9 now.
And 9. These experiences started around what age?
Baby, he wasn't even talking yet. And he would see my grandpa Huck. I shared this in another video, that he would, and you can't mistake him because that's who he's named after. And he had this big jowl that he would make the kids laugh. And he saw him once when I couldn't put him to sleep, and it was a sleepless night. And it wasn't a night terror night. He was just uncomfortable. And all of a sudden he starts laughing and trying to shake here, and he's looking up, and my grandpa Huck was pretty tall. And so I'm like, oh, sweet, he's seen, our departed loved ones. But it was the night terrors. I say that because there were nights I couldn't wake him up, and he was somewhere else. Could not wake him up. And he had no recollection at all of having a bad night's sleep. Before he talked, toddler years, and all the way up until, right before he met the giant. So maybe he was until 6. And it was...
Met the giant? What?
My hubby, yeah.
Okay,
He's their stepdad. He's the stepdad, and he stepped in, and he really brought that divine masculine energy. I think they feel safer and more secure, and lot more sleep at home now.
I mean, that for a long time, all I had was the divine feminine, and it made me one tough cookie, because my divine feminine also had to be the masculine, and it's one of those situations, but having those strong men, and I've heard this over and over again, Heidi, going back to your mom, that it seems to be maternal, going through the mothers.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that these things kind of trickle down.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that when one parent is aware and chooses to stop, process, address the situation, learn energetic shields, the Christ light, as you're calling it, a Christ consciousness. I'm a divine sovereign being. I'm filled with energy, source energy that's billions of years old. Any sort of dark, bring it on. I'm light. I'm protected. I'm good to go. And if we have this idea, being able to have that kind of spiritual strength allows us to tiptoe closer to that darkness.
Yeah.
Most people, if they feel like they have no sort of protection, if you had no armor or gear or protective gear, would you ever go towards someone with a knife or a gun? No, you wouldn't. The only reasonable way you would approach someone like that is if you had enough protective gear.
Yeah.
So teaching this protective gear is even more important, as you just stated, than the actual experiences they're actually going through.
Yeah.
And
he literally says, I do not consent 3 times at night. He's like, and he's not exactly sure what he's not consenting to, but he just wants to sleep good. And he in that sense. And I wanted to point out too, that their dad, he's not in the picture at all. And I feel like that happened for a reason too. I was gifted these kids, and then he's gone. He was an addict. I chose, I chose the kids, and he didn't want a part of it, and he went away, and it's better for all of us. So it's kind of like, I just found a little dot connection when you were talking there, and I'm not sure how to verbalize it yet, but I'm seeing a little clearer now, because it drove me nuts for a while. Like, love these children, I was really on it, and now I'm like, oh no, it's okay, go away, it's cool, you can go that way.
Heidi,
for the children.
The feminine, and especially especially for a boy, and having that powerful mother, it can the divine feminine, Venus, all right, Aphrodite, love and war, that is, and a woman's vengeance, especially when she's hungry. And we know how you are about your snacks.
And snacks in survival mode. Woo.
There's a reason you're hoarding snacks around, because the anger that comes from a hungry woman, no man could ever understand that whatsoever. And my mom had to be there, and I had a lot of stepdads. I've probably had like 8 to 10 stepdads, and each one just taught me so many things. And my mom was a good mom, so I was never abused. And all of these great men, all different backgrounds, teaching me their wisdom, and I just wanted a dad. So anyone that would come around and could tolerate me, hey, what's up, Dad? Like, it just got normal. And a lot of people say, oh, that must have been hard, but I'm actually thankful for the experience. So, some insight to your children. I always encourage parents, if you were a single mom and you're remarried and your kids don't know their actual parent, that don't matter. Just make sure that you align yourself with people that will give them all the love they need, and they'll be thankful for it in the end,
And the wisdom. Like you said, everyone comes with their own storyline, and to share that wisdom on the kids, we're just creating little Jedis,
Yeah. And the kids are here to guide us, not the other way around. That's
they're my awakening.
I'm learning.
Yeah, they're really, when I was like, I got to figure this out. Like, let's put this together. It was more.
Were they that drive that really made you like, all right?
It was that mama bear thing, that fiercely protective thing of like knowing the dark, what's going on. I'm trying to protect my kids from it, but also the night terror thing just put me over the edge, because I felt like helpless.
A good point. How can you protect your kids from something that you yourself don't understand? So ignoring it doesn't help so the mama bear said, oh no, I might not understand this, but I'll do what I need to understand it, to make sure I can protect my children. That's what you're.
Yep. I had to figure it out. And that's how I started finding the others. So I'm like, anyone else going through this? And it kind of, I put the name to it, night terror. I didn't even know that's what it was. So I had to dive deep fast. I was, aware of things, but I had to just surrender and go all in.
Yeah. Wow.
And it did turn into major survival mode then, because it was like being their guardian, being their educator, being all this, while at the same time trying to emulate high vibe living. So it was really I was all over the place.
Yeah, the physical battle, providing food, keeping the house clean, washing clothes, getting them to school, etc., versus the spiritual. You were fighting on two fronts. Multiple dimensions. It
was a lot. And I didn't have family out here. I moved to LA by myself. So I've been out here 22 years. And my mom, of course, would come out after each kid was born and help for a bit. But, towards the end of my dad passed in 2018. Thanks, Big Pharma. But she would come when she could, when I was in those situations, to help out when she could. So she's the one who really pushed me with the giant, because he kept flying out to see us, and he was coming out to the surprise 6-month visit to woo me, and she coordinated him being there, and I was on a big crazy Lancome jog, all celeb. I'm like, I haven't talked to you in 24 hours. I hope you're not on a plane coming, because I'm really busy and blah blah blah. And my mom is like, Heidi, don't F this up. this is your guy. And I was like, what? And he showed up and wooed me, and there you go. So my mom was kind of like, whew, she's got somebody now. Because she was my right hand man for a while.
Babysitter now.
Yes, that's it. She's very happy for us, though. She's at peace. And she doesn't talk about this stuff anymore. She reinvented herself. She's got a new fella. I think I should disclose that, why I didn't get her permission, because she has fallen into the, and I don't think he knows any part of this, any of this. He doesn't know this about her, all of this experience. Like, she's kind of reinvented, and we want her at peace because it was pretty traumatic with my dad in the end there. And so we're like, Mom, just be happy. And so I carry on her story.
To move on, and and that's the thing with some of these situations. It's already done, and we can't do much about it.
Yeah.
Like, and then sometimes it just keeps going regardless. So it's like, are we living for those moments? Or are we living for the here and now? And, a lot of people are out there. I want to have my memories back. I want to have my memories back. And I want to encourage people. I don't want to have my memories back because I got a good idea of what they are. And I feel like sometimes for us to focus on what we are doing currently, it's better to be in the here and now. What can we do for the ones around us? So,
yep.
Perfect segue into that, Heidi. From having all of these experiences, what are you doing now in the here and now to help children that were children like you, people like your mother, and even your own children? What are you doing now? What are you up to? What are some of the things? I said that, you work with a lot of homeschooling moms and things like that, women coming from similar backgrounds and situations. So tell us what you are doing right here, right now, and what is your mission?
Oh, my mission is to just assist these kids in their own awakenings and, growing into their own divine sovereign being and protecting them. But I am surrounded by like minds, and there are some other experiencers as well, but it is the gamut. And our thing is, we are not following the old system and way of doing things. I work in an enrichment learning center, which means we have homeschoolers, but it's a center. So it's school. It's a school, which means we have a classroom and an educator and a curriculum and everything, but is nothing state run. Where, it's basically a small business, and we're just assisting in the children's at-home education, whatever they're choosing to do. But most of the families that are finding this place want to do something different. They're not subscribing to, even Waldorf is what I did when the kids were little, because it was very nature-based and holistic and natural. And while I was a maniac working in Hollywood, I felt safe. My kids were safe and they were being nurtured. And it's a very gentle approach to child-led learning. However, when all the agendas kicked off in 2020, a lot of those kind of schools and programs were taken over by the agenda and covering kids and pushing things that I'm like, whoa, DNA, what? No. And I find this place that had already been existing. And it was founded by an incredible woman who is really all about the mind, body, will of the child. But again, won't subscribe to the old school way of doing things. So I now officially work there. My kids started there last year, and I gave them that because they were with me 2 years. And I may be a preschool educator, but educating your own kids, they wanted mom. They didn't want, a teacher telling them what to do. And they wanted the classroom setting again, not at home, not when me giving up saying, okay, everyone jump in the pool. Like, it was fun, but, they needed more. And so we've just found the most beautiful place. And yes, it's full of magical kids. And I call them little star seeds, whether they're aware or not, even whether the parents are aware or not. These are children with their lights on. Their light is still intact. And they are hungry for information to empower themselves. And they show up every day and they teach me something new. And what I'm doing right now is I'm assisting. I assist in the 4th grade. My son is in 3rd there, which is an outdoor classroom. And my daughter is in the middle school, which is fully emerging, or 6th, 7th, 8th emerged class, 24 kids. And they're totally hands-on. It's It's an incredible program. And again, it's only 3 days a week at the center. And the rest of the time you bring the curriculum home and you work it with your child in what way you think would serve them the most. And there's a lot of field trips. There's a lot of gatherings. And it's child led. They focus on the needs of the child and the personalities of the child. And what I love the most, I just posted a picture. I was near tears yesterday at lunch because I'm watching the recess and it's beautiful grounds. And this is in LA. Like, you would not know. There's animals. There's in the distance. It's beautiful. And the sun was shining. The sky was clear. No Argyle. And kids are in trees. Every child was in motion doing something and laughing. And I was just like, this is what it is. And I'm ringing my little cowbell and they all come running in and they're like, what's next? You know, there's no like, or falling asleep or sick. And they all have homemade healthy lunches, their parents. It's just a mindset of, you know, let the kids thrive, keep their light on. It'll be okay. We don't know how high school's going to look. This center only goes to 8th grade. And again, I don't do charter schools. I'm basically not in the book. So I don't know what high school look like, but I'm not worried because we're all really finding each other. And if it's not there, we're going to build it ourselves. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, what I'm doing.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And you know, like you said, it only goes up to 8th grade, but it's so important that children have a foundation, because a foundation is what everything else is built off of.
Yes.
So that right now, yeah, there may not be anything for that, but like you said, when there's a need, who is better to do it?
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? Some of the graduates that have gone through the program, some have gone into, because of their parents, you know, decisions and what's best for the family, they've gone into the public schools and they are the light coming in now, and they're flipping it. Like, they're finding the others within, and the kids whose light is about to be turned off somewhere, they're meeting this being that comes from this magical place, and they're illuminating others. So again, like, even having worked in Hollywood, you got to get into these places and flip it. You can't run away. And so we created this really safe space. There's a few of us that actually protect the grounds with energy before every school day. I do this every time because it's just so fun. I'm like, it doesn't feel like we've been taught school is work, but it's play. And so we protect that place, and it has gone through, you know, there's been infiltration. It's gone through a lot of work, and nothing of anything negative sticks because it is so full of light. And we're basically walking the walk and talking the talk now.
That's amazing. And it's wonderful, because this has been a reoccurring thing that's coming up. These creative learning centers and these places for kids just to learn a little bit more. And one thing I do want you to talk about, because I was watching a video with you the other day, and you were talking about some of these field trips. And I think that all the people that are watching this right now that have children would absolutely be envious, like absolutely mad jelly of the field trips. I'll be honest, I'm jealous of the field trips these kids have, especially the one you were talking about. And you're like, oh yeah, we're just going there. I'm like, what?
Oh, the integrity. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But go over some of these field trips, because I'm like, what? It's wild.
So cool. Well, the middle school, in Joshua Tree, there's the Integratron. So integratron.com.
Fantastic.
A lot of people heard of it. Yeah. And they camped nearby, and they had the full immersive experience. It was a private, so it was just the class. And it was incredible. I wasn't there. My daughter said she knew what I'm into, but she wanted the experience, and I let her have it. So the other chaperones took her, and she came back, of course, going, Mom, you'd love it. I'm like, well, we're going again. But they explained the whole story of it too, which is, you know, it was built to communicate with our extraterrestrials. Like, they told them the truth of what this place was built for and the history of it.
All of it.
All of it. They shared all of it. And the kids are engrossed, because these kids, the lights are on, they're hearing, they're listening, and they're digesting, and they're processing. And not only that, but the whole experience of being in Joshua Tree camping, there was 2 nights, and one of them was the wicked, crazy wind you hear about in the desert. And the tents are but they're all together having fun through it and riding it together. And then it was the star-filled night. So we are planning another adventure like that. And actually that same class, we're going to Costa Rica. And that's why I'm not going to see you in Grafton. I was supposed to be the check-in registration girl, Journey to Truth, but I'm sorry, Tyler. I told him I couldn't because the kids fundraised, and we're actually going to be volunteering and working at a turtle sanctuary. And so they'll be actually working there for a whole week, and we have corporate sponsor, like the people sponsoring, so it's not such a heavy ticket price. They want us there to help. And the kids are so excited. So that's a pretty cool field trip. I was so leery on the travel because in this current day and age, but apparently, from here in Costa Rica, there's a lot of, it's cool. It's going to be good. It's fine.
A lot more freedom, we can say.
Yeah. I don't want to say all that stuff. Yeah, but we're good. We're going to be good. And then like my son, there was, or the class I work in, a wolf reservation, like basically, 2 hours north of LA, there's an incredible wildlife reservation, and they're literally walking among and seeing herds of elk and, talking about it. And we're in the rain and the fog and all of that stuff. And then tomorrow we have one at a really sovereign farm where they never closed during lockdown. They got a lot of crap for it, but they were like free sovereignty and free will. We're sovereign civilians of free will. Boom, boom, boom. So we patronize those businesses. And there we're going to hear about the gold rush, and it's a full working farm, so we're going to do some farm work and stuff too. But there's some pretty epic.
Nothing's better.
The sound baths, yeah. Most of these parents, like these families, you find out what they're doing. There's mediums, there's healers, there's sound bath technicians. We're running. Those are the families that are there. And then you have, Hollywood, and it's a little bit of everybody, but our common goal is the well-being of the child. And, that's
what it all comes down to. Exactly. And for Tyler and Aaron, I'm sure they'll be watching this, and I will be at the Journey to Truth conference in May in Grafton, Illinois. Such a bummer you're not going to be there, but so Tyler, excited. Aaron, myself included, and everyone that will be there, children always come first, and none of us are going to put it against you, especially when a trip like that can truly impact these kids in a way that they'll never forget. And I really hope everything goes smoothly and they can learn, I
was trying to make it work though, because it's not till a week and a half after, but that week now comes out. We're writing our own plays. Every class has a play. It's the end of the year. I'm on staff. The education center needs me. And then my grandma can't come out and watch my kids while I go to Grafton. So there's a lot of things that kept coming up. I'm like, I'm not meant to be there this year. So that's next time, but I'm there in spirit. I'm gonna be FOMOing and checking in on y'all.
It's gonna be a great time, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of people that are watching this now. I won't be hard to find. 6'8" red bearded Nephilim walking around. So just don't confuse me with Bigfoot. That's amazing. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing for, these kids. And it sounds like not only are you helping, these children, but you're also helping a lot of these adults. As you said, a lot of these adults are experiencers. They have spiritual journeys, hence why they are kind of thinking in this way. And it kind of sounds like you have a great team. And I'm sure eventually, it sounds like you're not in this alone, and it takes a team to truly build something great. And everything starts somewhere.
Oh, totally. And I knew when I became staff, they know what I'm doing. They see me, they hear me, and they still they want me in there. And they even ask me to place protection. I'm like, these are my people, because
I got this.
yeah, in this day and age, you're like, well, have you seen that person talk about UFOs? No, they can't be here. They're like, tell me more.
You're walking around the property smudging
Yeah.
everything.
I always have tourmaline in my pocket.
Oh my! Oh,
And
you're getting it done.
for the kids, their birthday, we just celebrated one yesterday. All the little kids in my class, I gift them a little bag, and I go think of them, and I find the most perfect treasure rock, and I'll think of a strong word for them, and I write it, and then I gift them a crystal with the meaning of it, and I make them a little handwritten scroll, and that's their little birthday gift, and they love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. The teachers,
so simple, but so awesome.
The teachers give out crystals too to the parents at our meetings and stuff. They're like, I want you to hold the children in your heart every night, hold this, take a meditation. Yeah, I could go on about it, but it's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And yeah. And thank you for hearing me and hearing my story and asking such beautiful questions.
Yeah.
It's such a treat
we
and an
all
honor.
have one.
Yes.
And
I love the human experience. It's incredible.
And you learn that from a child, and just because someone's been in this earth meat suit, this vessel for 5 years, doesn't mean they don't have a story to tell.
Right.
Yeah. Look at you at 5 years old. Look at me at 5 years old. I had a UFO crash behind my house. You were seeing UFOs and BigFoot running around out in the woods. But no one would have ever believed us if we would have told them at that age. And they tried really hard not to. But fortunately for me, I found evidence afterwards, but not everyone gets to have that evidence. And that's why I come in here to help those, because I know how that feels to have something legitly happen and not have evidence. And I feel like, well, I'm the guy that got the evidence, so I'm obligated to help those that don't have it, because these things are real. They exist. It happens. And that's why it's so important that we really try to help these kids and not just dismiss everything they say, because most of us were children when we had our first contacts, our mind-opening experiences. Yeah. I think we all go through this.
Some of these kids at the center, there's one little girl I'm thinking in particular is fully into her stuff now. We talk to each other here. We'll test each other. And I'm like, I'm going to ask you a question and she'll answer. And I just think it's the coolest thing. And I'm like, we're in LA.
Telepathy.
Yes. I'm like, she's on already. She's one of my biggest teachers there. But exactly. Normalizing it for them.
Yeah. And I believe that we come into this world on and are taught to turn off.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that's why we're actually learning from them, and it's reminding us, oh, we used to be like this. What happened? Oh, government, indoctrination, and not, what's going on? I've been brainwashed, and then we got it. Then it takes just about the same amount of time to break it. But if you catch it early enough and you allow them to be their own sovereign, little, perfect, wonderful beings, they'll be better than us, which that's what we should want. And there's hope for us, right?
That's our job right now. That is how you flip it. You don't wait on a special date. You're not waiting for someone else to change anything. Do what you can do now. Soak in the information online, but you got to take it to the streets now. That's where the magic happens. We're all alchemists. We need to be practicing what we preach now, even in the darkest places where you think there's no hope. And on that note, that's where you focus on the kids, because they have a lifetime ahead of them of doing this work. And so empowering them now, you literally change the trajectory of our future. There is no more doomsday. That's an old timeline.
Exactly. And I'm the same way. Anyone out there talking about, and I want to make this point real quick. Anyone out there saying this is going to happen on this date and that, I don't listen to any of it. I focus here and now. Who can I help here and now? Waiting for extraterrestrials to come and save us. Well, nothing's ever going to happen. It starts with us. Starts by us helping one another, helping the children. And, let's just hope when extraterrestrials, well, they already have, but if they do come here and they want to judge us as a species, let's hope they choose to talk to a child, because if they talk to an adult, we're done, myself included. We've been corrupted too much. So I think as a true, missionary to these beings, I believe it should be our children. We've had our chance. We're making up for it by what we're doing now, but it's these children. And that would be my vote. First person to communicate with these things for the public, the youngest, most pure-hearted kid there could possibly be, because that's the only chance we'll have.
Oh, so much so. And with children, like I'm very concerned, because there is a huge population of children where their light has been turned off, but it can turn back on. Like there's no lost hope. There's hope for everybody. And if we do focus on the mission of the kids, we can turn all their lights on.
Yeah.
There's your flash.
You're 70 years old, your light still can turn on, because it's always been there. You're just waiting for a little gasoline to get on that little tiny candle flame. It goes out, but you get enough gasoline on there, it'll blow up again. So that's knowledge, wisdom, and life experience and connecting. That's how we get it all back. So, so Heidi, before we wrap this up and stuff, I want everyone that's watching this to know how they can reach out to you. I've been watching you on YouTube, but you got a lot of other things going on. So give us your plugs and tell everyone how they can watch you, get a hold of you, and what you're doing there.
Oh, thank you. I did put together a link tree, so everything's on there. I have the link tree / Heidi Popp, because I've just been putting all my human experience high vibe hangouts onto BitChute and Rumble, and also YouTube. And I am still all over Facebook. Been on that since 2007. They can't take me down. And Instagram. I don't know if I have a Twitter anymore. I never checked, but we'll see. But my Linktree does have everything. But Heidi Popp from Los Angeles is usually my handle. Otherwise, it's Heidi Popp, not to be mistaken with Heidi Popp, the Australian singer. She's blonde. You'll see the difference. But you can kind of find me there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. So everyone, down in the description, you will find Heidi Popp, the link tree down there that will have all of her other contacts all in one link.
Yeah.
So you can go and make sure you subscribe to every platform she's on.
You're such a sweetheart.
And she's been doing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. If you want any high vibe swag, the kids and I made a little swag store, highvibepopisms.com. There's Care Bear shirts. My daughter has her art. She's a little artist. It's on all this different swag. So I forgot. They'll kill me.
Is that in the link?
It's in the link tree. Yeah,
perfect.
It's on there.
So, go check out that high vibe swag and check out her daughter's art and the cool t-shirts they're putting together and swag. I'm sure she'll greatly appreciate the support. It's not easy out there, and but we're making it happen. And thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Please subscribe to this channel and Heidi's socials and channels. Go show her some love. She's doing great things and really has been spreading light for a very long time, and I'm sure the world is a better place because of it. And I really appreciate this story and message of just going out into the darkness sometimes and just being all you can be. And if you let your light shine, no one will ever put it out. So keep shining, sister.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Robert. This was beautiful. Thank you. I'm just honored.
So everyone, have a good night. I'll see you next Tuesday or so, whatever that time is. This is Robert Earl White with the Order of Light. This is a new era of contact. We're getting it on. We're not waiting for the clowns in Washington. We're making it happen by having all of you share your experiences, because you are all valuable. You all have a piece of the puzzle. And it's not until we get all those pieces together that we will understand the full picture. So we're all on this rock together. Let's get it together. Love and light, Merkaba, source energy. We're out. See you next time. Peace.
I didn't want to go public without evidence because I knew no one would believe me. The entire incident happened about 5 to 6 minutes in total. And my mom shouts really loud, "Oh my God, what is that? What is that?" At no point did the two men in black or the Air Force gentleman ask my mother or her friends what did they see. They looked human, but they did weird things. The men in black, they said, "You will report it as a helicopter crash, or we will take your son away." The men in black play the narrative and the media outlets spew it back out. This was 1991, Project Mockingbird in full effect.
Hey everyone, check out the Order of Light merchandise store. We got a lot of different t-shirts there. The Humans Aren't Real, Lower Always Creek Incident. We got tank tops of Merkaba. We got stickers, glasses, a lot of different glasses, so get thirsty. We got bags. I live in New Jersey. We don't have bags anymore, so it's really nice. We got flip-flops, hoodies, and all the ladies out there, we got a bunch of awesome merchandise. Please join the YouTube membership for my channel. You will get exclusive badges, really awesome emojis, member-only live streams, posts, and chats and connections with me for only $5.99 a month. See you there.